Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Secure Talk. Secure Talk is brought to you by Adequest, your cybersecurity and compliance partner. My name is Mark Schreiner, and I'll be your host for this episode of Secure Talk. Today, we've been joined by Brian Vallelunga, who's the CEO of Doppler, which is a universal secrets management software provider. Brian, how are you today?
Good. Glad to be here, Mark.
Thank you for joining us. Whereabouts are you located?
I'm in SF, right near the Bay Bridge, actually.
Yeah. How are things down there, both in terms of the climate and the weather, I should say, and then in terms of what's going on with COVID?
It's a beautiful day today. Yeah, definitely very sunny, not a lot of wind, perfect temperature. I generally like it a little bit cold, and it's 66 degrees Fahrenheit, which is perfect for me. COVID's a little interesting. SF started to open up again, and then now with the new Delta wave, it's starting to close down a little bit. It feels like less people on the streets, sadly. But
I mean, we're seeing something similar up here in Seattle, both weather-wise. I mean, we've had a really hot summer, but this last couple of days it's cooled down. I mean, I just was outside my front deck, and it's like the perfect temperature. I don't know what it is. It's close to 70, and it's just like perfect. But also what we're seeing here is people are starting to mask up again. And they're talking about when the kids go back to school that they'll probably have to wear masks, et cetera. So people are trying to, I guess, getting a little bit more cautious again. I think there was all that pent up energy to get out and do stuff. And, now we're unfortunately seeing a little bit of a bump there.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of funny, though, because at least in SF, from what it seems like, is during the daytime, it's a lot less people on the streets. But at night, it seems like people are really out and about. I was driving in one of the bar areas in SF, just trying to go to a friend's house, and there was literally lines around the street corner to all these bars, and no one was wearing masks. It was quite interesting.
That is, and the funny thing is I don't know, call me weird, but I don't really feel super comfortable even now. I mean, I've been vaccinated and all that, but I don't like to go into a really crowded indoor place. I prefer to sit outside, and the more air flowing through, the better. I'm sure there's some science behind it, but I just feel more comfortable that way. But I do see the same thing here, where people they want to go out and have their fun.
Yeah, I think people have been caged up in their apartments or condos or houses for a little too long, and just need to let go of some energy, I guess.
I guess so. Hey, so I want to talk about Doppler and your solution, but before we get into that, could you maybe give us a little bit of a tutorial in terms of what is secrets management?
Yeah, sure. Secrets management isn't really a popular category or term really in the developer industry, but I hope it will become over time. Are you familiar with GitHub, for example?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So for anyone in the audience, GitHub is a collaborative place for teams to manage code at scale. And it comes with versioning control, access controls, pull requests, and a whole bunch of other really fun stuff. And secrets management is just the same thing, but instead of for code, it's for secrets. And for anyone in the audience who's like, what is a secret? It sounds kind of mysterious. It's really just like an API key or a database URL, some piece of text that's generally very sensitive, should not be out in the public, and generally used to configure applications. So an example that we use all the time is, let's just say a company is doing payments and they're using Stripe. Stripe will give them an API key. That API key will then allow that customer's application to authenticate into Stripe, and that key needs to be stored somewhere. It needs to be distributed among all the developers for local development and have like a special testing key. And then in production, they'll use what they call a production key. And that needs to be in all your production applications, and the same thing for staging. And so it's just a secrets manager is kind of like a way to organize all of those secrets in one central place.
Totally makes sense. I mean, I guess something that I'd be more familiar with is, for example, a password keeper, which obviously is not for development, but it's still kind of a secure way to store my passwords. But you're using your keeper for the development side, and so you need to share it amongst your other developers. Is it code that you actually would just copy and put into the app?
Kind of. So it's more of the code is ready to receive. So the code can basically pull from the environment, and our job is to basically inject it into the environment. And so we don't actually we don't give them code to like hard code those secrets in. That's actually insecure. What we do is we give them a way that their code can fetch those environment variables from our command line tools, our integrations.
Got you. And then why is secrets management so important now? I mean, and I'm assuming it's important because you've got some pretty big investors in your organization, or, in Doppler. If I read correctly, you've got Google Ventures, Sequoia, Greylock, Kleiner Perkins. I mean, obviously these people must see the potential there, the opportunity. So why is it becoming so important?
Yeah, it's a great question. We also have some amazing angels as well, like the CEO of GitHub, for example, and the founders of Box and the CTO of OpenAI. The reason why is that I think it's like, so there was like this big wave where like source control is a big thing where like people needed to manage code. And I kind of see like running any application, there's like three basic parts. There's code, there's compute, and there's secrets. Code is managed today with amazing companies like GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. And then you have like compute, which you can do on your personal computer, or you can use cloud infrastructure, or for the extreme cases, have your own physical data centers. And then secrets management is kind of like the one left hanging, the one that's been forgotten about. And it's typically a very like unsexy space. Like this would not be the first thing developers build for, but it is something that's becoming a bigger and bigger problem for them. And the reason why is there's been a couple big moves that have exacerbated this problem of managing secrets. The first is there are just more projects that are being worked on. So in the days of monoliths where you had just one place where all your secrets were, now there's companies that are building microservices or macroservices or something in between, where they have maybe 50, 100, 200, 300 projects, and all those projects have different secrets or environment variables or app configuration that needs to be stored, and they need to be stored in different environments. And so there's just a lot more things to manage. And then another big part of it is just more services. If you go back quite a bit, most people were building things all in house. And now we have services like Stripe for payments, Twilio for communication, and on and on and on. And there's just so many more secrets or configuration that needs to be stored somewhere. And so those two big things, we have more projects and more secrets in those projects, and then those secrets need to be federated out in more places to like local development for individual team members, to AWS and GCP or Vercel and Netlify. There's a lot of places that need to be stayed in sync. I kind of like to think about it as like before, in the days of Google Docs or Notion, you had a Word document, someone else had a Word document, and maybe 10 other people had a Word document, and then you'd make a change and you'd have to email it to them, and they would have to do this masterful like merge resolution to basically have everyone be on the same page. And now you have Google Docs, and that's kind of like what secrets management is. It's kind of like Google Docs, where you have that one central place across all your projects, all your environments, and all your secrets.
Makes sense. And I obviously, as you mentioned, there are just an explosion of apps and different services that you want to integrate with those apps. So obviously there's more and more secrets. If you were out in the market, or if somebody is out in the market looking for a secret management software, what are some of the things they should be looking for?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So actually, I think that they shouldn't be using a secrets manager per se as the only thing. I think they should be using what we call a universal secrets manager. So you can think about a secrets manager as like a destination. It's generally a key value store that will hold your API keys or other configuration very securely. But then you need a management layer on top, which we call a universal secrets manager. And so things that I would look for if you were looking for either a secrets manager or a universal secrets manager is a dashboard. I think this is really important. Most people like something visual. They like a way to edit their secrets in a dashboard and get all the fun perks that come from a dashboard versus just only being in a CLI. I would make sure that it works with every infrastructure provider and language and stack, so that what we see sometimes is where like people may have one solution for one language or one infrastructure like AWS and a completely different setup for another language in a different stack, and especially in bigger companies where they may be running multiple clouds because maybe they acquired another company that built things completely differently. You need that one central source of truth that just streamlines developers across the board on how they do things.
Excellent. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and assume that the Doppler provides both the dashboard and that kind of it is a universal secrets management software,
Yep.
not just a secrets management. Yeah.
That is
and
specialty.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, I would say that's where Doppler plays really well. Is we looked at all the solutions in the market, and we really felt that there needed to be something built for developers. And the core three things that I think make something really usable for a developer is having a dashboard, having it play well with every language stack and infrastructure, and just have something an experience that's really obsessed over for a developer. So really streamline user experience when it comes to onboarding, managing secrets, inviting team members, and all the other human things that go on with managing secrets.
And how do you decide on your development roadmap? I mean, I assume you take your you go to market, you get feedback, or is it driven by other things?
It's a great question. At Doppler, we do it in a kind of two big things that come up, and that's how we do planning. The first one is we're very lucky to have customers that just like scream and shout at us and say, "Hey, I want these features." And so we really put a lot of effort into engaging with our customers and listening to what they have to say, and not just like what they're asking for in the moment, but the underlying thing of what they're asking for, the reasoning for it, and then we try to solve for that. So it's more universal across all of our customers. One big thing with developers is it feels like every developer believes this is like the tried and true way of how everything's managed, and then every developer is actually building something completely different in a different way. And so coming up with a constant way that works for everyone is quite tricky. That's one big part of listening to our customers very, very deeply. And the second part is looking at where we want to go long term, and really thinking, is this where we want the market or the category to go, and really try to build things that pull the category in that direction.
That's like two kind of, I wouldn't say competing, but differing, things to look at. One of the companies I work with does software development, and it's interesting because we will get feature requests all the time, and I think you touched on that. Is one of the things that we'll do is we'll try to dig down into there and say, like, what are you actually trying to do? Because maybe the feature, as you've named it, maybe we can do something slightly different that's going to actually get you closer to what you want to be able to do. And so just being able to kind of dig down in that conversation is important. So what's how is the company doing right now, and what are some of the more exciting things that you can share with us?
Yeah, happy to. Real quick, I'd love to follow up on one other thing that you kind of touched on that sparked a thought, which is sometimes we found that even we actually have what they want, we haven't done a good job of surfacing it, either through the onboarding or highlighting of certain features to documentation, and that's why I think it's super important to listen to like the underlying things that customers want, because you may already actually have a solution for them, you just haven't done a good job of surfacing it.
That's a really good point, and that's where, I mean, depending on how complex the tool is, but where training and, like you said, that onboarding experience is really important. Get that kind of momentum going, getting people comfortable with the tool, regardless of what it is, and then just and if anytime you can get like an in-house subject matter expert on your tool, so I'm assuming the inside on-site at your customers, that's such a hugely important thing to do. Otherwise, you got a bunch of people with the tool, and they're like, well, they're not optimizing it. So, yeah, it's a great point. And so back to my previous question, how is Doppler doing?
Doppler's doing amazing. We are growing really fast, both in self-serve, and we're booting up our enterprise playbook as well. And I mean, with self-serve, we're at just over 4,000 companies that are using Doppler. And to put that in perspective, I think we are at 600 or 700 in January. So growing quite rapidly there. And it's not just in like the number of companies that are using us. It's the amount of secrets stored in our platform. We are rapidly approaching 200,000 secrets stored. And if you think about each secret is like a credit card, 200,000 is quite a lot.
Right.
And those secrets were read from our platform 260 million times last month alone. So quite a lot of usage.
That's super impressive. And yeah, I'm just curious. So with self-serve, I mean, these are developers coming to your site. They're going, oh, you know what? We can use this. They enroll. And is your pricing model, is it a freemium model? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a freemium model. So we have a community plan that allows for unlimited users, unlimited secrets, all for free. And then we have a standard plan, which is really kind of like the entry way for companies or serious projects where they start to want things like access controls, saying, hey, this person can only have access to development while another person can have access to production, and segment out which projects people have access to. And then we have the Pro plan, which is like for the superpower users who want all the really cool features that we have, like recurring reminders for secrets rotation, for example.
Excellent. What advice, if somebody wanted to learn more about secrets management or universal secrets management software, both from, like, let's start with the customer side. Somebody wants to learn more about this subject. Where would be the best place for them to go?
It's a great question. I'm biased, so the first shout out I'd say would be Doppler. Okay. Just right? Take a look at what we're doing, and I think that could help get you on the right track. I think the funny part is that most developers actually have a ton of experience with secrets management. They just don't know it. Like every developer is using environment variables or .env files to manage their configuration secrets today. I think there are very, very few applications on the planet or developers are working on that don't have some type of configuration. And so they're already doing it today. They're doing it in what I like to think about as like almost a legacy way. And there's a new modern way of doing it that basically, think about it like an env file. And now you have a dashboard on top of that's multiplayer. And that's really what secrets management is. It's just a multiplayer version of an env file that's far more secure, and it integrates with every major cloud provider. So I would say to developers out there, you're actually already doing it. You've already taken the first step, even if you don't realize it. Now you just need to take the second.
Excellent. And where do you go to learn?
That's a great question.
I've asked a lot of great questions.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. When I first started Doppler, I didn't even think about us as a secrets manager. Funny enough, I thought of us as like an environment variable store, and secrets were like this later concept that we kind of just stumbled into and realized. I think there's a lot of places to learn about secrets. I mean, if you look at what the cloud providers are doing today with like AWS, GCP, and even the newer ones like Vercel and Netlify, you can see how they're starting to manage secrets, which is it's really key value. And then a lot of the learnings we've had is just thinking about internally. I mean, I think there's two parts around secrets management. There's the usability piece and the management layer, and then there's the storage layer and making sure things are secure when stored. Around the storage and security layer, there's a lot of great material out there from AWS, GCP, and the newer clouds as well. And we really just studied up on what they were doing and how they thought about it. And then for the management layer, I think that's actually something the learnings we've had is really thinking about it internally and talking to customers and building it for ourselves. Doppler, in a way, is one of our biggest customer of our own product. And so we tend to have very strong opinions about what we would expect this tool to have. And we do draw some inspirations from like GitHub and the things that they built. Like they built pull requests, and which is a way to basically take code from one branch and put it into another branch with approval layers and discussions and reviews. And why shouldn't that same thing exist for secrets? And so there's some inspirations we can draw from there. And so I would say it's like a mixed bag of a lot of different things, but especially in the management layer, it's very introspective of like, what do we actually want out of the product?
No, it's really important to, as they say, eat your own cooking, and so you actually become very familiar with how you would apply it. Um, tell us a little bit about your experience, establishing Doppler, any challenges that you're facing, and obviously, you've had some amazing success with your backers, but tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, the early days of Doppler were actually really hard. They were hard for a lot of reasons. One, it's just like when you go to a company, or founder, and you say, hey, give me your secrets, trust me to store it securely, and by the way, if I go down, you go down. Like that was a really hard argument. And so I started getting our first set of customers by what I call Chipotle sales, where this is pre-COVID, so it's a little bit harder nowadays. But I would just take anyone who's a founder or software engineer to Chipotle and be like, hey, here's the deal. You get anything you want on the menu, but I get to rant at you for an hour. And kind of the goal was really to kind of like learn what they were doing, and then also kind of share my opinions about it and how it was built, and eventually at the end try to get them to use the early versions of the product. And I think one of the most interesting things about building Doppler was how so many assumptions short-term were wrong and long-term were right. Where like the things that we thought were like the implementation details of how to build Doppler, a lot of times were wrong. We rebuilt the product, I think 4 or 5 times based on just different assumptions we had. Like we had a Python Node and Ruby SDKs, and turns out that's actually a really hard approach to scale out. And people wanted support for more languages than we could actually build for. Like there's only so many languages you can learn at a time. And so we shifted into building a command line tool that can support all languages. But that was a hard learning. That took us a long time and a lot of almost like resistance, where like you feel like you're on the right path, and sometimes you feel like the world is a little wrong, and then you got to wake up and realize, nope, the world's actually right, you're wrong, and you gotta switch over. But then long term, of believing that every developer deserves a really good secrets manager, kind of like how they have really good source control through GitHub or GitLab. That I think we were actually spot on with, and so it's kind of funny to see the duality of like a lot of times we're wrong in the short term and right in the long term.
Some important lessons learned there. Go back to the, if you don't mind, the first obstacle of convincing other organizations to trust you with their secrets and trust your platform. What was your way to convince them to go ahead and trust you?
Yeah, I think the early conversations were literally just human conversations. Like, hey, this is how we think about these kind of things, and really just try to address their concerns. So the first integration we ever had was with Heroku, and we built it because one of our customers basically said, hey, I don't trust that you'll be up, but that shouldn't matter to me. And if you can push my production secrets to Heroku, then all I have to trust is Heroku's up. And if Heroku goes down, well, I'm down anyways. And so that was a big learning lesson of like, oh crap, we should totally build integrations. Another one that we heard was like, what happens in local development when I'm on a train or a plane? Like if I have to access the internet to get my secrets, I can't really do local development offline. And so we built out a feature that does like automatic encrypted fallback files, and the command line tool will smartly fall back to that fallback whenever needed. And so it was a lot of just like really, really closely listening to customers. I'd say another thing we did was we just stayed in stealth mode for a long time. I think it was almost a year and 3 months that we stayed in stealth mode, where we didn't even have a marketing website. It was purely invite only. And it was a gauntlet of a process to get a new customer. Like someone would refer a friend, and then we'd jump on a Zoom call with that person. We'd give them a demo. We'd try to hear everything that they were struggling with, and then we'd make sure that if they needed anything extra, we'd ship those features same day, so that when we onboarded them, they had a good experience. And that really quick feedback loop of, oh, we hear what you need. We figured out this is the underlying thing that will apply to everyone else, or 90% of all the other customers we have or we expect to have in the future, and then build it really quickly. And I think listening to your customers and deeply and building really quickly for them will just build trust. And then the last part, which just took us a long time to realize, is time. You have to kind of prove to the market that you're going to be around. And it's so easy to say it. But saying it doesn't oftentimes make people believe you. The way they believe you is you start to just build a track record. So we put up a status page where like you can go back to almost any minute in time for like the last 2.5 years and see if Doppler was up or down in our lane C numbers. To giving them that kind of flexibility when we did go down, and we've gone down before. Now we build out a lot of things so that if we do go down, it doesn't impact our customers now. But we write postmortems and we're really thoughtful about it. And we share what actually went wrong. And we found that a lot of our customers learned from that. They're like, oh, actually, we're making the same mistake too. And we've gotten a lot of those kind of emails and conversations from our customers. And so I think it's a bunch of incremental things that build trust. Another big one is documentation. We are obsessive over documentation, both internally as a company, but also externally and with our product of like how you actually use your product, from like API references to guides. We even make videos, and we'll put videos in the documentation so that if you're a visual learner like me, you can watch a video, or if you're a step-by-step person, you can just look at the text in the docs. And so I think all those things in Cumulus start to inspire trust over time.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering, does it matter? I mean, you tell me, because I'm not really that familiar with the Silicon Valley scene, but does it matter once you start landing these very high-profile backers? Does that help with the credibility as well?
A little bit, but not as much as you would think. It helps a lot with hiring, to be honest. Right. There's kind of this saying of like, oh, bring on the big investors so that you can go have a great TechCrunch article, and that will dramatically change your growth rate. And I think that's just totally wrong. It will help with hiring. You'll get a flood of people asking to work at your company, which is amazing. But I don't think it will help that much with growth. At least in the developer world. I think in other products that are more targeted towards founders, like that will help a lot, but definitely not for developers. I think what helps with developers is building really cool stuff that they actually want and resonate with. I think developers get really excited about seeing new things. Like I'm such an Apple fanboy, and I'm a Tesla fanboy, and whenever Tesla launches something new or Apple launches something new, I get so excited. And the first thing I do is I go around my friends and tell them. And I think that's the same thing with just everything developers. If you build something that they haven't seen before, that's like an oh shit moment, they will like go running towards it.
That's awesome. And it's interesting how different people are motivated by different things. But one thing that I think is true, that is, if you're open with your strengths, but also your shortcomings, and if there's an issue, you go down, but you're transparent about it, and here's what caused it, and here's what we're doing to prevent that from happening again. The documentation, I mean, because if you just want the information so you can get your job done, right? And if you do a good job with documentation, the how-to videos, all that stuff, I think that's it's not a secret, but it's something that a lot of companies don't do that well. And sounds like you guys are doing a great job. I
think the way I kind of like to think about it is, I don't know if you've ever watched like G.I. Joe, but there's like this one scene where he's like death by 1,000 cuts, and I think like trust is the inverse of that. It's like 1,000 things, small things that you do that inspire trust. It's like the exact inverse of that.
Absolutely. Well, if there's any, is there anything exciting that you want to share about Doppler in terms of, new releases, or you're going to be participating in any kind of events? I mean, events right now are still kind of up in the air, but if there's anything like that you'd like to share with us, please do.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things down the roadmap that I think are really cool. One is we're launching pull requests sometime this quarter or maybe early next quarter. And I think it's going to be huge because it's going to be the first time ever that there's been a pull request model for secrets. Sorry, it looks like Siri just went off.
That's all right.
But yeah, it will be a pull request for secrets, which is really big. And then the other big one is if you're a developer and you're adding a new service, let's just say Stripe or Twilio, there's going to be a page in their dashboard that has the API key, and next to it there'll be this copy button. And I think Elon kind of hit it on the head where he said that all human input is like error, and we generally agree with that. And so we're actually building something that will be launching very soon, which we call universal import. And next to that, and we'll basically give companies an SDK that they can add this button next to that copy button in the dashboard that will allow users to import secrets from Twilio, from Stripe, or from wherever, any site really, to Doppler. And so the idea is at no point in time did that developer copy that secret or have a chance to mess it up. They just click one button and it's automatically in Doppler. And because it's in Doppler, every developer will immediately have it. Staging and production will have it, which means those integrations will fire off, and AWS will have it, Vercel will have it, and all the other places that their secrets need. And so those are the two really big things that are coming down the roadmap that I think are going to be really exciting, because I think it's going to fundamentally change how secrets are managed today.
That's awesome. It sounds very, very powerful. If people wanted to follow you, I think you're active apparently on Founder Suite and Layer CI. If people wanted to follow you, is that the best way to do that? Obviously through the Doppler website as well, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd say they can follow me personally on Twitter. It's Vallelunga Brian is the username, and Doppler as well, Doppler HQ. I'd say to everyone, I'm just starting to learn how to use Twitter. I'm pretty much very late into the game of it compared to most people who are like really, really big on Twitter and tech. But I'm getting there, and I promise I'll start tweeting more over time. But yeah, you can follow me there, and I'll try to share pieces of wisdom or things that I've learned over time while building Doppler.
Excellent. Well, hey, Brian, I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I'm super impressed with the success of Doppler, and wish you a great second half of 2021.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. You too as well.
Hello, welcome to Secure Talk, your trusted source of information on the latest threats, trends, tools, and technology related to cybersecurity and compliance.